And we're live. Hello, 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 my friends. Thank you for joining me. I'm Nicholas W. Fuller, and this is Person Behind the Pages, the show where we get to know the creators that make the things we love. Today, I've got a special something cooked up for you. I've got a lovely panel of wonderful folks to talk about balancing writing with other creative work, because all of us are doing both because we're probably crazy. But that's like one of these would be hard enough, but we're like, no, let's do two crazy things. That'll be fun. So let's kind of, I do want to go around. We've got Adrian M Gibson, we've got Andrew Watson, and we've got Rain Sullivan. Thank you all for joining me. Let me have you guys go, and let's go in that order. And if you can introduce yourselves a little bit more in depth and talk about where you're at just a little bit in your writing journey and where you are in your creator journey with your other creative work, please. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, so I'm Adrian M Gibson. I co-host SFF Addicts podcast with MJ Kuhn. I started that 2.5 years ago, more or less. So that's like the thing that I started before writing. And then I started writing while I was doing that podcast. And I just published my debut novel, Mushroom Blues, 2 weeks ago.
Woo woo!
So yeah, I'm very early on in the writing thing, but the podcasting thing I'm a little bit more familiar with, a little farther along the journey.
Right. Yeah. The podcasting thing, I feel like you got nailed. I feel like you're one of the kind of top podcasts in the space, and you're also pulling down pretty sick guests like Christopher Paolini and Jim Butcher and that sort of thing. I mean, kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Andrew, go ahead. Same thing. Give us a little introduction, please, sir.
Sure. Yes, my name is Andrew Watson. I came prepared, Harbinger of Justice last year.
Ooh, Oh no, did we lose Andrew? It would have been great if we had lost him while he was holding the book though. He's like, this is all I'm really here for, you know.
He came prepared, but his internet didn't.
You know, I've talked to a couple folks in the UK, and Rob J. Hayes was like, yeah, the internet here is just, you know. So really? I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure he'll come back. Go ahead.
Do you want me to go?
Well, yes, the perfect segue really briefly for me to also say we're supposed to have Sara Lubratt, but she's not here right now. Hopefully she joins us, but we'll see. But if you're watching, Sara, come chat. What are you doing? Rain, please. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rain Sullivan. I have a writergram, which I started 2 years ago to really connect with the community. I've been writing for about 5 years, and I am currently querying a novel. I've got a couple other in the works. So.
You sound as exasperated as you should be about querying a novel.
I am on draft 12. I'm 3 chapters away from finishing draft 12 of my first book, which I've put on pause many times to write other books. And so that exasperation is very real. But I'm excited because I paused querying for a long time to work on this draft. And now I'm diving in again, and here we go.
Here we go. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was checking out on your website too. You got a few different works in progress that are in various states, and you say that I think this is the one that you said you're constantly perfectionism tweaking, right?
Yeah. This is the one I learned on. You know how a lot of people write a novel and then they shelf it and they take off with a different novel.
Yes.
So I did that for a couple drafts, shelved it, wrote another book. Came back to it, was I love the idea, I love the characters, I love the concept. And so I came back to it, reworked it, shelved it, new novel, back to it, worked it, shelved it, new novel. So now I've got 4 real projects in the works, 4 real novels in the works. One is a sequel we're not going to talk about. Yeah, that's
3 projects, right? Yeah.
Well, close in the ether until the first is solidified. But
that's cool.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Adrian. Did you have?
Yeah, I know how that feels though, because it's the book that I wrote before Mushroom Blues. I'm I don't want to shelve it. It frustrated the hell out of me but I know that there's like something there that I can work with and kind of like tweak enough to a point where I can be happy with it. And that's going to be the book. That's the book that I'm currently working on to release after Mushroom Blues.
There you go.
But I was like, I can't shelve it, man. That makes me
Yeah.
so sad. The idea of like working on something so much and then shelving it. I know it's inevitable, but
I feel like it shows some maturity though to be able to do it, because my first book I probably should have shelved because it definitely wasn't like consistent with what I wanted to write in the future. But like 10 years ago, I went and kind of put it out in the world for a little while, you know. But I love that you said too, Rain, that like you learned to write with like that first book, that now you're on like draft 12. I think that's something that like as debut writers, again, I mean, I wrote that first book, but like let's not talk about that book anymore, you know. So as like debut writers, you know, yeah, we need to learn the process a little bit, and that's an important part of the step, and trying to balance that is a challenge as well.
Yeah.
Hey.
And
Hey,
Andrew's
Andrew,
back.
thanks for
Back.
rejoining us.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries, bud. That's what I was saying. I think is Rob J. Hayes, you know Rob J. Hayes, you know of Rob J. Hayes. Is he in Scotland too, I think?
I think he's in England.
He's in England.
Is he he's in England? Okay. Well, anyway, he was talking about how the UK internet.
But if it's bad in England, then it's probably
yeah.
just the same in Scotland.
Yeah,
So.
it's bad.
Anyway.
It's really bad.
We're kind of
Just dies
talking
for no reason.
we're talking a little bit about, you know, learning to write with debuts and how that's difficult. But I would like you, Andrew, to sort of you cut out right while you were holding your book, like, and giving a little bit of an introduction. So we didn't get to hear anything about your creator journey, Andrew. You know.
I have a YouTube channel, and I talk about books and stuff. I don't want to risk it again and turn off the camera. But no.
Are you just going to be super concise about everything now?
Yeah, right.
Just one sentence, super short. Yeah, just in
That's
case
funny.
I'm cut off again.
That's
No,
funny.
but I have a YouTube channel where I talk about books, mainly fantasy and sci-fi books. But I do occasionally talk about writing stuff, but not too much. More what I'm reading and things like that.
Right. Cool.
I think I've been doing
Yeah.
that a year and a half now, so a wee bit longer than publishing.
How many subs do you have on YouTube again?
I think we're nearing 10K. Should be 10K soon.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. And I want to also mention a couple of the things that you do that I think are neat, Andrew, just because I want to. So one, you're an affiliate with the Broken Binding, or a representative? What do they call it?
Yeah, a representative. Yeah. So I just share all their stuff. I was sharing all their stuff before, but now it's official and I can put it in my bio. So really
Right.
nothing's changed, but now I can put in my bio that I work with them.
Now it looks more official.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's pretty neat. If anyone's in the chat, and by the way, Ruiza, I hope I'm pronouncing. I see your question. We'll get to that. And hello, Daniela. But if anyone in the chat hasn't heard of the Broken Binding, you got to go check out that website. They do super cool special editions of
Amazing.
lots of different SFF books, especially. Yeah, highly recommend.
Shout out to Matt, who's the founder and a friend of mine.
There you go.
Fantastic.
What was and you're also, Andrew, full-time creative. You do some like freelance work. You actually used to edit no Adrian used to edit the podcast for Wizards of Warriors and Words, but you've done some video editing.
Now Andrew does
Jed
video
Hearn.
editing for Ed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
I work
pretty-
with Jed on his YouTube videos now.
Pretty rad, man.
Which is quite cool because I actually watched when Adrian did the Wizards, Warriors, and Words. That's how I found out about Jed, because I was watching the podcast.
Nice.
There's such a good chat between them. I like that.
Yeah.
So small.
No,
world.
it was short lived. I think I did it for like 8 months, but that was because Jed was like getting into the mindset that got him to where his YouTube channel is today.
Oh, yeah,
But
it's
on
doing
that
it.
journey, he realized like I don't want to do the podcast anymore.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like I became friends with him and Dirk Ashton, Rob Hayes, and Mike Fletcher.
Good folks.
Yeah, they got a good back catalog. If anyone wants to go check it out.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Space House says the Broken Binding is only what I live for, and it's Andrew's fault. So Andrew,
Sorry.
I think
You've done your
take
job,
it out.
man. You've done your job.
Oh, there we go. Another one. Harbinger of Justice, Broken Binding Edition. When? But that's happening,
tell
right?
them.
I don't. Is it,
No.
Okay. No. All right.
Nothing's been decided. So if you want that tell Broken Binding, and hopefully we can sort something.
Tell them. All right. All right. So I kind of let off with, we're all clearly a little bit crazy, right? Like we've decided to not only do one really challenging creative endeavor of writing a book, or in Rain's case, 8 books all at the same time, but but we've also decided that we want to do various like bookish creative endeavors as well. So Rain, like, let's start with you. What made you want to do both? What is sort of the advantage to you to doing both? What makes you keep doing both right now?
Well, unlike you guys who, I'm pointing the wrong way. That is weird. Okay, whatever.
To the comments.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, my whole apartment's backwards behind me. It's fine.
Yes.
I started writing, let's see, top of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I was a very closeted writer. Didn't know any other writers, didn't really reach out into the community whatsoever. It was just like a private little thing of my own. And then I got really into it at the start of 2020. And of course, the pandemic hit. And so there was no opportunity for community. And I happened to know someone who happened to know someone who happened to know a writer. She spoke with me on the phone for like 15 minutes and was like, the most important thing for your writing journey is going to be having a community. So for 2 years, I postponed that advice and just shoved it off. I was looking for local writers to write with and found no one. And then in April of 2022, I was like, maybe I just have to sink into social media and look for a writing community there. And I saw a couple people on social media posting stuff and seemed like a really kind community, which not all of social media feels kind and welcoming. And I hopped on, and in that first week, I asked if someone wanted to swap pages. Someone reached out, we swapped pages, and it just like kind of bubbled from there. And so for me, it was totally about community. And then, and I almost didn't keep it going once I found my community. And then I went to a book signing, and a writer, Candace Cade, she writes YA sci-fi. She's like, oh, I'll follow you. You want to start building your audience now. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, this is a potential marketing tool. So that combination of that, I think, is what keeps me connected and keeps me going. So.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's really lovely that, you started for community. That's why I love doing these interviews too. I feel like, it's such a great way to connect with people. Sometimes, with all of you people, I really admire what they're doing. I like what they're doing. I love that and to your point, Rain, like bookish people are such great people. And each of you have like such kind of positive material and energy and communication that you're bringing out into the world. It's lovely. So I definitely vibe with that. That makes sense. What about you, Andrew? Like, what got you into starting to post things on YouTube about the books you like?
To be fair, it's very similar as Rain. I mean, writing can be so isolating. You're kind of just sitting in your room, clacking away at a keyboard, talking to people who don't exist. And you can get a wee bit stir crazy doing that. And so I was thinking, I really need to talk with other people. And I was on Instagram first. And I just sort of joined Instagram before I was even writing. And on Instagram, I was just interacting, talking to people about what I was reading. And then I saw Johan, Library of a Viking, who made the jump to YouTube. And I thought, why am I not doing that? I mean, I have a degree in digital media, and video is way more of a passion than photography. So I was thinking, why am I not doing that? And then I can film stuff and still talk about books. So then it took me still a year after that to actually bite the bullet and do it. So even when I was like, I need to do this, this makes complete sense, a year passed, and then I decided to actually do it. And I just do it because, one, I love it. I love filming and talking about the books I'm reading, but also it's to meet people and interact with the community, because you don't really get that from just writing. Right.
Yeah. Tell me, Andrew, and before we get to Adrian, Andrew, do you love the video editing as well?
Yeah, I'm one of the psychos that likes editing videos.
You are a psycho, dude.
I know that's like
yeah. But we need psychos like that. I appreciate that. You're there. So
Someone's got.
Well, I'm also kind of a psycho like Andrew in that case. Then
You like the video editing?
Yes.
I like the editing. I like the editing period.
Yeah.
Like whether it's
Man.
editing the podcast or editing like the video portions of it, or when I was doing like marketing material for Mushroom Blues, I was all over that, man. Anytime I had like trouble writing, I was like, fuck, I need to like unwind with something. And I could just kind of like, it's not brainless work, but it's just like a different part of the creative sort of mind that applies to that. It doesn't feel as tasking as writing, which is really
100%.
odd. Like writing, you have to sit down and be like, God, I have to think, like actually put an effort to make this like sound good.
You can only
not
write
just
for
complete
so
garbage.
long
Yeah,
before
yeah,
you get like burnt out.
Yeah.
This is not working.
exactly.
Yeah. Briefly, Bo. Hey, what's up, bud? Thanks
Hi,
for
Bo.
being here.
How you doing?
Velden, it is your gorgeous friend Andrew. Yeah, man. I feel the same thing in that writing is so taxing and demanding. But like one of the things I love about, I haven't done too many of this, but I want to do more of this style of video too on my YouTube channel. But I love that you can, like my most popular video was talking about the Wired article on Brandon Sanderson, and it got thousands of views. And I recorded that in a morning before anyone else at home was awake, and like put it up that day. You know what I mean? You can't do that with a book. You can't write a book in the morning while everyone's asleep. Like it's nice to have like a totally different creative outlet that kind of scratches a different itch and right? Adrian, I know that you love the community too, and you've been doing lots of interviews with your podcast.
Yeah.
But part of the reason you started your podcast though was so that you could pick brains, right?
Selfish, yeah. No, community was huge for me. It actually started with Twitter. It started during the pandemic actually, where my wife was pregnant with our first son, and the pandemic hit, and then I was like, okay, I guess I can't like tattoo anymore, so I should figure out something to do. And I've always loved SFF, so I was like, okay, I used to be a music journalist, so maybe I can just like blog about books and see how that goes. And I ended up coming up with a list of different blogs to reach out to, and the first one just happened to be Fanfi Addict. And I reached out to them first, and David Walters got back to me, and we just really hit it off. And we had a video call where it's like each of us had our respective kids, and that was just really nice to be able to like connect with other book people who are not necessarily coming at it from the writing angle, but are coming at it from like the reader side of things, where they just want to gush about the books that they love. And so I was doing stuff for Fanfi Addict for a few months, and I realized like, okay, I don't always want to be writing, especially because at that point I was like easing into writing fiction, but writing nonfiction at the same time as writing fiction can sometimes be a little bit exhausting because it's just like too much time staring at a keyboard.
Right.
So I was like, I need something else. And I've always wanted to do a podcast, had listened to podcasts since like 2007, and just made the jump, asked everyone at Fanfi Addict if they wanted to do a podcast with me or if anyone wanted to be like my co-host, and everyone said no. So I was like, screw it, I'll do it myself. And yeah, just made the jump. And thankfully, like everyone in the book community, I would say like from authors to bloggers to readers, like across the board, there's a lot of interconnection there. And it wasn't necessarily such a reach for me to invite authors on. Like my first ever guest was Hugh Howey, and within like the first 10 episodes, it's like I'd already talked to like Anthony Ryan and Sebastian de Castell and Andrea Stewart and a bunch of amazing authors. And so that just kind of kept going, and that podcast was like my selfish way of picking the brains of people that I admire, whose books I love. And I figured like, why not set this up in like a mildly professional framework so that I can ask them the questions about writing that I'm very curious about. Right. And every episode I would come away with notes. Every episode I would come away being inspired and encouraged to keep writing. And so it's like the podcast facilitated my desire to write and be a writer. And at the same time, I was able to have really amazing conversations with cool authors, and at the same time be able to put that content out there for other people to glean whatever useful information that they could from it. So it's just like a win-win-win across the board for me.
Right. You win, the guests win, the audience wins, everybody gets a car. No, that's
yeah, it's like the Oprah of SFF. It's great.
Yeah. That's awesome, and I agree. And as a fan of the show, it's been wonderful. I want to ask each of you, like, how do you balance the two, though? But in Rain, your area, I know that you're also a small business owner. That's a totally different thing, but that's a big part of your day. So how do you balance the three, Rain?
Well, my work is totally separate. It's healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I got some flexibility with that because of the pandemic, which helped
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to move to working primarily from home online. So that allowed for some flexibility. I don't know how I balance it. I get up really early when I don't feel like it, and I write. Those are my most productive hours. And then I have my full work day, and usually during breaks, I do Instagram to try to keep that up. And then in the evening, right before I crash, I get like the witching hour, and I use it again to write. So that's my magic formula. I don't know if it's great, but that's how I balance it. So yeah.
So you write when you're a little tired, either really early in the morning or really late at night. Okay.
Yeah, it keeps you from being too judgmental about my own work.
You're in that hazy creative space.
Yeah.
You can just kind of like let shit flow out onto the page.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm editing, then I gotta hunker down a little bit more. But definitely, I'm like a split brain, like morning. What do you call it? Like morning brain, night brain, and then there's definitely a dead period in the middle, and that's when I do emails for work.
Yeah.
and your Instagram, you said, huh? Like that's kind of in the middle also when you have like a little bit of time.
Yeah, I during my workday I have breaks, and that's usually when I hop on there. I do my best to engage with all my buddies, keep everyone uplifted, and I do the best that I can. But I don't know if you guys are balancing so much more. I feel like that's wild.
Whatever. No, you're awesome
All
too.
balancing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And, I'm not sitting on tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. So are you're like you record your stuff on Instagram sort of in these short periods? Do you do any sort of like batching of your content on Instagram or?
I will usually record them early in the morning. That's why I usually in a hoodie, in my pajamas frequently. And then I kind of tweak it throughout the day and then post it when it's ready. But I had some issues with batching on Instagram just because Instagram is a little glitchy. And
scheduling feature.
It exists.
Yeah.
It doesn't always
when it works.
Continue to exist. But yeah, I realized that when I did them once a day as opposed to trying to batch a whole bunch in advance, I was more engaged and had more fun with it.
Okay.
And I had to do 20 all at once. I was like, I don't want to be doing this. So I have more fun with it as little snippets throughout the day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I think your ears are so. I love that one you did just the other day where you had the big binder and you're like the audio is like, don't ask me how I did it. I just did it. It was hard, it's like each of yours are so funny. I love the personality you bring to them. But
thank you. Humor is my safe space.
Yes. Omni Dove, I see your question. That's gonna be my next question. Oh, that's an interesting one, Michael. Andrew, I want to talk to you about how do you balance the two? And while you're talking about that, how do you not self-insert yourself too much to be cringe?
Or just wholesale put yourself into the book.
Yeah, do you? Yeah, are you right in there?
Yeah, no.
We're not interesting enough to be in our books.
That's what I was just about to say. I need to write way more interesting people than I am because it'll be a very dull book.
Nick would probably say Adrian, you should add yourself into your own book.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Actually, that's legit. Adrian's lived a life, but I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. I did community theater when I was young. What are we going to talk about?
Community theater.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, how do you balance the two with your YouTube and your writing? What are you like? How much time are you've got your first book out? Well done. Woo woo. How much time are you spending these days writing your sequel? You know?
I manage it very poorly currently. It's a mess, but we muddle through. We muddle through. So yeah, you can only write for so long. So usually I'm writing in the mornings and then I'm on to video work in the afternoon. One of the difficult things that I've found is comparing yourself to other people who are doing like one of these things but full time. So I see like Ryan Cahill, who, to be fair, he does a lot of traveling and stuff as well, but he also like throws out these massive word counts really quickly, and I'm like,
Andy
why am I not
Peliquin
doing that?
looking at you.
Yeah.
He's probably wrote a book in the time we've started this call, to be fair.
15,000 words in a morning. It's like, fuck off, man.
I saw some
Yeah,
other dude that like
exactly.
has written a couple books with Andy Peliquin. I can't remember his name offhand, but he's got a book dropping like this month.
Jamie Castle.
I think that yeah, and the other like a book dropping like this month and the next month and the next month. I'm like, bro, how?
Yeah, it's insane. And you
Yeah.
see that and you think, why can't I do that? Why am I not doing that? But
Yeah.
when you're doing more than one thing, it is unreasonable, and you need to kind of say to yourself, look, you're doing this and this in my situation. So I need to like, figure out a way to manage both. I can't really just say, why am I not doing this when this person is doing it full time? And a lot of people write different speeds as well. I mean, Stephen King talks famously about writing 2,000 words a day, which is kind of my aim. That's kind of where I sit for when I'm drafting. And what I do is I actually, to make it more manageable, I say I'm going to do 10K words in a week. So that adds up to 2K words 5 days a week. And that means if lifes, or if I need to focus on a video project or do something, then I've got the weekend to catch up with any missed words and hopefully still hit that goal. So that's kind of, it's finding ways to make it more manageable for me. And it's the same with that video work. I do find it difficult if I'm comparing myself to someone like Daniel or Murphy, who's releasing, 4 or 5 videos a week, and I'm like, I can't do that. And there's no way. It would take a hit in quality for me. They have obviously that's their main focus. And I know Daniel does a lot with the writing as well, to be fair. So I don't know how he does it, but for me, I would burn out.
But they've also, first of all, I love everything you said, and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna I need to cut it out, make it a clip, put it on like a digital frame in my bedroom or something, so I could just listen to Andrew be like, "Listen, give yourself grace," and I'll be like, "You're right, Andrew. You're right.
It's okay.
Yeah. Don't compare yourself to Sanderson. You're right, Andrew. You're so right. I don't
Just
know
like
why
an
I would ever do that.
encouragement loop for you to listen to every morning.
Yes. Yeah. While I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, just Andrew going like, "No, you're doing good." But yeah. But yeah, like even like Daniel, like he's been doing it for 7 years, Daniel B. Green. So like I feel like he's probably refined his process, right? We're like all of us, it turns out, are
my wife.
all of us are still kind of new to. Yeah, you did have kind of a little bit of a weird smile just hanging there for a bit. Yeah.
I didn't just.
All right. So Adrian, you two, you're balancing the podcast. You've got episodes every week. You just put out your book. You've been doing lots of promotion. You also have 2 young boys at home. How are you balancing it all? Are you one of the writing in the morning crew also?
I'm like right when you can is my motto. Like, especially being a stay-at-home dad, life is just so unpredictable all the time. Like I can't make a routine out of my writing. I have to make a routine out of everything else in my life. So the way that I've kind of put it into perspective is like, with things being so unpredictable with kids, the best thing that I can do is to, like, my wife and I basically just like established our daily routine with the kids. Like they wake up at a certain time, they eat at a certain time, they bathe at a certain time, so that I know that I have more predictable windows in which I can do something like this, or I can write or edit or whatever. My youngest son, like when he takes naps, that's usually like my social media time, because it's really easy for me to just like hop on my phone, and even if like he fell asleep on my chest, I can still, just like do a little bit of social media or like rain like emails or whatever. So there are just certain times throughout the day when I know, okay, I have some flexibility here to do X, Y, and Z. With the podcast, it's basically like Friday is just my editing day, and
Mhm.
I've refined everything so that I have templates. So I just have to drag and drop files into my audio editor, and I can just edit in the morning before the kids wake up. And then once I have that audio file, throughout the day, I can just do like, 15, 30-minute chunk of editing the video. Once again, just like drag and drop the video files for each particular episode into like my template, and then more or less like have that done by the evening. And then at night, like I'll just quickly edit 3 clips, and that's basically like all of my podcast stuff for the week.
Yeah.
So that in terms of podcasting, it's just like take advantage of the time that I have and not be too hard on myself when it's like, oh, there's an interruption, and get upset or get frustrated or whatever. That just leads to a snowball effect of frustration. And when it comes to writing, it's like I have to be much more forgiving to everything around me. And I've learned basically over the course of writing Mushroom Blues that the dream of, like Stephen King or however many writers, like you wake up in the morning, whatever, you write for 3 hours, you do whatever you want to do, you write for another 3 hours. It's like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where I'm okay with, I wrote for 15 minutes, or even if I just have my phone, I just like fill up. I have like a to-do list app that syncs with my computer, and I basically just like fill it up with thoughts. If I'm working on a particular scene, like boom, there's like a little note for dialogue, and then I can bring it up on my computer and I can just copy and paste it and work it into whatever I'm doing. Usually nighttime is when I would have more consistent time to write, like a 2-hour stretch or a 3-hour stretch or whatever. Sometimes I would wake up in the morning at like obscene hours, like 4:30, 5 a.m. and write for a little bit then. But even then, Andrew just like glitched and then he became so small. You leaned back and it just like looked like you were like Gandalf to like Frodo in a fraction of a second. So for me, it's about not chastising myself whenever I don't have the like full amount of devotion that I wish I could give to writing. It's like make the most out of every little fragment that I can piece together, because any bit of progress is progress. And if I just waste time, like moaning about woe is me, whatever, that is going to stifle that progress. So even if it's like 200 words in like 15 minutes, that's progress. And any little thing helps.
Love that. I like what you're saying. It makes me think of Yoda, like the interruptions lead to anger. Anger leads to the dark side, Like, right?
I'm gonna be a dark side with my Wi-Fi after this, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
I've been there, Andrew. Oh man, can I tell you, Andrew? Like, I had a internet trouble while I was interviewing Mary Robinette Call. It was one of my first interviews. I was so angry, but it's okay, man. It's okay. We don't need that dark side. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, but no, I gotta I'm gonna clip you too, Adrian. I'll have both of you on frames next to each other and be like, yes, like any progress is progress. We're doing that little bit, We got. I want to kind of hit this question that we're sort of getting a couple times in the chat. Ariza, I hope we're pronouncing that right. But where do you find the inspiration for ideas for writing? Is it other writers, maybe other aspects of life? That one, I want to kind of take a spin on that. OmniDove kind of has a similar question. I'm curious, what are each of your go-tos for idea generation when you're feeling stuck? So for me, I have way more ideas for writing than I have ability to put on paper in any reasonable time. And I mean, that's part of why we do it, right? But so, sometimes the ideas for the other creative work, like Rain, I don't know how you get ideas for all of your reels every day,
Neither do I. Yeah, sometimes it'll hit me like at a random point in the day and I'll just jot it down. My notes app is like 4 miles long.
It's like a CVS receipt.
Yeah, exactly. It's like book idea, real idea, short story idea, random dream sequence that may just turn into nothing. Like it's just, whatever comes up. And so sometimes I'll dip into that. And then sometimes it's the day of, moment of, but something occurs to me and I'm like, or I'll hear an audio. I mean, Instagram is a weird little echo chamber. I'm like, oh, I can make this work into something either, encouraging, educational, or entertaining. I try to like always hit one of those 3 things. And that's my secret little not a secret. Those are my like 3 E's. Like I need to be doing one of those 3 things in a post. Otherwise it's not uplifting. It's not going to encourage the community. It's not going to relate to the community. So the whole point is to keep creating this like awesome, safe space for writers. So I try to look, sometimes there's a little bit of sarcastic flair. That's again, my happy place. So I take it that way, but I do try to like offer something, like great. We can talk about the writing process. We can talk about how drafts die in the abyss, like, something like that. But, so all day, it's just the more you do it, the more your brain is doing this, right? The more, I'm sure that happens with you guys as well. The more you think of ideas, the more ideas just start to generate on their own, and I jot them down.
Yeah. Got to have that list to refer to, right? I love that. I think that's the image that I'm gonna have of in a frame for Rain. It's gonna be the encouraging or educational or entertaining. That's pretty cool. How do you like judge what's like entertaining enough? Because there's definitely sometimes there are ideas where I'm like, oh, this is great, and then like I tried like making a little clip of something. I shared it with my friends, and like, bro, that ain't it, bro.
With the way Instagram works, it's like, how long does content last? 24 hours?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So shoot your shot over and over again, because in 24 hours, it may have made it may have died, and it doesn't matter. So, if you think it's funny, every now and then I'll like go over to my husband and I'm like, is this funny? And he's like, it's not your best work. And I'm like, well, I have 4 minutes until my next client call. He's like,
Send
it. Send it. Run. Let it go. So what's the right level of entertaining? I don't know. I try to have it be like, is this more, even if it's kind of like snarky or sarcastic, I try to think, is it more funny or relatable than it could bring someone down? I don't know perfectly,
sure,
but I try not to make any content that would bring anyone down.
I feel like the only time that you're bringing someone down, you're sort of like poking fun at yourself too.
Right. Like, like everything's working out. Bam, plot hole. We all understand what that feels like when you're like, I just want to break the whole draft in half and, start over. But again, it's like, if I'm poking fun at it and I think this is more funny, then it's going to like discourage someone.
Right.
Then yeah, I mean, if it starts to lean towards discouraging, I mean, you've all probably followed and seen those people where even if they're just talking in their story and it's more negative, it starts to be a turn off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
or like on YouTube especially, where it's like I get really turned off by like clickbait negative thumbnails. Where it feels like, okay, this just looks like you're trying to rope me in with like a shitty review of such and such book. That doesn't appeal to me at all.
Right.
And I see that a lot on Instagram, and I just start avoiding it because I don't know. They're like, I'd rather see like I don't post book reviews, but I don't know. I'd rather see like the uplifting book reviews as a aspiring writer who's trying to get their work out there.
Yep.
I know there's room for negative reviews, and I think there's certain places for it. But on a quick 24-hour feed, 2 minutes of scrolling. What do you want to say?
Yeah. I'm the same, and like I kind of avoid reviews for the same reason. I don't want to nitpick somebody's book and be like, here's the things that I think they did wrong. No, I just like, if it's like, I'll want to shout out books that I love by people that I like, and that's it. Very few exceptions. Like, unless I really, really, really am like punching up, then like I'm kind of okay with being like, I didn't like this thing about Stephen King, because no one's gonna be like, oh well, Stephen King's not gonna be hurt. You know what I mean? But
that's why I'm really thankful MJ offered to be my review guardian, essentially. That's so basically nice. Every morning she'll text me and say like, you got a new 4-star, 5-star review, blah, 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 and then she'll give me a snippet of the review so that I don't have to like lurk in Goodreads or Amazon and basically just like feel shitty about myself if anyone dumps on my book.
Right. So that's smart. Andrew, I know you're kind of jumping in there. I sort of jumped in further, but like you were talking about, kind of the idea generation. So what's working with your idea generations?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about idea generation. Lots of authors have this when they're working on a book and suddenly they come up with ideas for 10 other books. And they're like, I want to write those now, even though I'm working on this. So yeah, most of my ideas is just, if you are working on something, is basically what Rain was saying, then ideas come when you're doing creative work. So that's definitely what I've found. I come up with more ideas when I'm working on it. Even my outlines and stuff, I know kind of the main plot beats, but it only becomes a story after the first draft, because so much of the minutia and all the small details come from actually writing it, and those are all discovery written. I know it's on a scale, and I'm kind of in between. So I have all like the main points, but I do write in between. So I do think that just forcing yourself to sit down and actually do the work, or at least attempt to do the work, even if it's terrible, then that's definitely a better way than just sitting and looking at a blank page, or just not even sitting down.
Yeah, I'm very much like you, where I'm like in between. I think it's really nebulous, the spectrum of like plotter and pantser or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Because when I'm outlining, I'm like discovery outlining, because I don't know what's going to happen until I put it on the page. And then once I do my first draft, I'm using that skeleton and I'm doing some sort of like pantsing in that process, because it's like stories live and breathe on their own in a lot of ways. Characters, like I have whole characters that like people have read Mushroom Blues and they're like, I love this character. I'm like, yeah, they didn't exist until like draft 2. So like they just spontaneously emerge out of the story, out of like the necessity of this like creative entity. And when really cool ideas come, if I feel like, usually my first thought will be like, how could I apply it into this story? And if it doesn't fit or doesn't work, then I'll just put it into a Word document that is like, like Rain has with her notes app and everything. Yeah, like future projects. I have like a Word doc that's like 48 pages long, just of like projects and sequels and whatever. And I'll just throw stuff into there, because it's way too easy to get distracted from things. And what I found is like the first draft, like outlining in the first draft is this very just like this like creative vomiting experience. And what I found
there you go. What's everyone's writing process like? Well, it's creative vomit.
Yeah. But what I found that's actually really fun and interesting for me in particular, like, yes, I wrote a book about mushrooms, so don't be surprised at the next thing I'm about to say. I like to microdose when I'm drafting, and that kind of unlocks like a certain part of my brain where there's this like ego barrier that can often stifle you in many situations, where you're thinking like, I'm not going to write this down because that sounds stupid, or like you don't necessarily want to write it down because it doesn't feel fleshed out enough.
Right.
And what I've experienced through microdosing is that actually I just kind of like toss aside any of those.
You continue to vomit.
Ego. Yeah, I continue to vomit. Like I continue to let it out. Like I spew, just keep spewing. Life's good. And what ends up happening is there's like 50% of it isn't really that great, but I can tweak it. Right. And then the other 50% is like stuff that surprises me, that I'm really, really happy with. And obviously it still needs editing and tweaking, but that kind of unlocking of my sort of self-doubt, kind of like pushing that aside, helps me a lot in the early stages where there are a lot of opportunities to hold yourself up and stop a project from moving forward just because you think you're not good enough, the story's not good enough, your idea's not good enough, whatever. That's just for me. Not everyone's going to be like, I'm going to microdose when I write, but
no, like we all have to find a way to turn off that inner critic. Are you microdosing? Rain, just be really tired, you know? Like
no, but actually I feel like that state that you're in when you wake up is actually the closest, other than maybe people who do like transcendental meditation or something along those lines. It's the closest an everyday experience that human beings get to being in a hallucinatory state. Is the moment you wake up when you're still groggy and your brain hasn't fully switched on into like normal perceptive mode. That is kind of like
free.
That's like that ego free zone where you can just I think it's called like the alpha state is more or less what it's called. And it's like you wake up and there are ways that you can perpetuate that alpha state for longer periods of time. So I feel like when you engage with something like writing and you're feeling groggy and kind of loopy and whatever, you know, obviously like go pee, go drink some water. Don't torture yourself. Sure. But you can sustain that before you enter into, okay, I'm fully awake and my ego's here. I don't want you here, but you're here. And then you have to kind of carry out all your responsibilities for the rest of the day.
Yeah, those first couple hours are like, I call them like my dreamy hours, because I just get to like let it all out. Like, and one thing I'll do if I have a new idea and I'm not sure if it's like a full book, is I'll just write it as a short story and see and play with it, right? Like, do I like, right? Because sometimes you have these ideas that are this big, you have like a partial character trait in your head, or you've got like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a goddess who had no arms? And you're just like, all right, let me try it. Let me throw it on paper. And in those early hours, I'll like throw down sometimes a short story, right? Just this little,
I don't
know, shorty. And then later you can like look at it. And I've had that happen where I write a short story and then it turns into a full book.
Yeah. So. Or it could even be like flash fiction. It doesn't have to be that long.
Yeah.
You know,
that I think is something that like even as debut writers, but especially someone that's not writing doesn't fully grasp, is that a novel is not one idea. A novel is like many ideas that you have to make all work together, you know, and then
yeah. Like Ken Vu, MJ and I talked to him about this because he basically writes like super short stuff where he writes short stories and whatnot, and then he writes like gargantuan novels, and he never kind of like passes into that middle ground. But he brought up a really good point. It's like short stories are essentially like boiling an idea down to its like core constituent theme, or it's, you know, like the thing that you want to basically introduce the reader to and then punch them in the face with, and then it's done. Whereas a novel is a roller coaster where there are a lot of moving parts and there are all these different mechanical processes of story that have to interweave together to make this thing not obviously like make it super enjoyable, but not make it so dangerous that like the roller coaster is going to fall apart and people are going to die and Disney's going to get sued or whatever. It's like, no, you have to hold it together and make it strong in its foundations, but then you also have to make it entertaining, and that's where like pacing and all this different kind of stuff comes in, and character arcs and whatnot. But it's so much more complex. Whereas a short story or flash fiction, you can really just be like, hey, idea, boom, and then the person's like, oh my god.
No, Bo. Adrian wrote a novel, so he's a roller coaster designer.
No, Bo. I don't want to punch readers in the face. I want to dose them with hallucinations.
So, all right, go ahead, Andrew. Please.
I do think that that's the one thing that's quite off-putting for either beginner writers or even just when you're early in the process and you're looking at all these, like, you need to have all these ideas sort of meshed together, and it can be very off-putting. So that was and especially when people talk about how important outlines can be for some writers. And I know myself is like, once I've outlined it, I'm like, is this enough for a novel? is this like enough? Is this entertaining enough? And one thing that I heard from, it was Dirk Ashton on the Wizards, Warriors, and Words podcast. He said, you can re-outline like halfway through the first draft. And I was like,
Yep.
of course you can. Why didn't I think of
Right.
it?
Yeah.
It
You wanna
makes so
know,
much
like-
sense.
Do you want to know, like, Mushroom Blues started out as a novella, and I'd outlined it as 14 chapters, which for a novella, that's like, cool, you got it, you know? But then I looked at that outline after I'd finished the other book, the first book that I'd written, and was just kind of like, finished the first draft, and I was like, like, I don't want to do this. So I used Mushroom Blues as my distraction project. And I looked at that outline, and I was like, I didn't know how to outline. Because like each chapter had like 2, 3, 4, 5 scenes, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can extend this into a full novel. How absurd that I thought this would be a novella, and just like expanded it like an accordion and turned it into a full-length novel. And through the process of writing that novel, I was like, I love these characters so much, I'm gonna plan out 3 sequels. So it's like you can expand things and contract them as you will. It's like you don't have to write an outline and be completely obligated to follow that step for step. So many of the things that happen in the writing process are spontaneous. And if you're too afraid to deviate from your outline, then you're potentially missing out on the things that will surprise you and end up being the best parts of a story. Like so many points in Mushroom Blues, there are things that happen in Mushroom Blues where they weren't in the outline, and I ended up just like, the characters and the story were just urging me to like go in this direction, and me exploring in that direction. You can go explore and come back after realizing that didn't work, but you can also go explore and realize this is way better than anything I'd come up with previously. And that can,
with booktube.
Yeah, like that can end up becoming something that readers really attach themselves to. So don't feel like outlines are, Ryan
Outlines
Skeffington,
are meant to be
meant to be
thrown away. Yeah.
No, outlines are meant to be guideposts, but they're not meant to be, you know, like the end all be all of your story.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to think of it like a road trip, and you've got all these fun spots you want to hit along the way. But like you may do some wild wiggly circles, and then you're gonna get to drive your road trip over and over again, right? Every draft, you get to go back to the beginning and like, did I need all these posts? No, I needed to go over here. I needed to take this wild, quirky twist, and then that one over there.
Yeah,
I need that, and so you get to keep reshifting your map until it fits the story that you were so excited about when you started.
Turns out the biggest frying pan in the world wasn't really worth a stop, right?
Right. You can be like, you know what?
I'm still going to stop. That sounds amazing, right? So either way.
When you come over, it's an hour away from here, so.
Is it possible to actually like fry stuff on the frying pan, or is it just for a show?
They cook chickens on it, but we're way off track here.
Dude, that sounds awesome. I want to just show up with like an ostrich egg and just be like, let's do this.
Omelet, yeah. No,
I think that would look really culty if all these people are just around this giant, like,
it's like
cooking chicken.
It's 10 feet in diameter, man.
That is like,
that is enormous. It's like a giant cast iron thing, and glad you.
Wow, it's like the Kentucky Fried Cult. I love it.
All right, so going back just a little bit, like you were talking, Adrian, about how Mushroom Blues things have evolved. You added characters. Bonus question, just for Rain. Tell me you're on draft 12 of your main, like your first book. Like, what is one of the biggest changes from like your early draft to like draft 12 that like kind of surprises you, or it just has made like the biggest impact that you're like, man, on draft 11, I'm so glad I added this,
Yeah. So one of the biggest changes that I had to make. Okay, there's a couple, but one of them is I had really, really strong internal goals for my character, and the external tangible goals were not quite as clear. So making the tangible goals so that your reader can track your character's progress on their journey a little more clear was really important. To do that, and this is where the real big change was, my character can like hop between dimensions. And there's different worlds, and there's the dream dimension in between. And so in that, in my first several drafts, like probably until draft 10, she had no idea what was going on. And I decided to make it genetic. And so now she can go into it knowing what's happening and have more of a tangible task. So instead of having so much discovery of the ability, she realizes she has the ability, right? It comes at a certain age, blah, blah, blah. And now is having to use it. So there's this, that really changed things. And like I said, in those first, I don't know, I want to say first 7-8 drafts is what I would call equivalent to like my first 3 drafts of the second book that I worked on. Because I was learning and didn't do my due diligence in reading craft books and editing books and all that jazz. So I was nitpicking and tweaking and making little changes from draft to draft. And that's when I put it down, worked on something else, and I was like, this is okay. I'm learning, right? I'm realizing the pacing of the story, the goal setting, all that kind of stuff. And that's when I came back to it and was like, I need to somehow pull the story back closer to the beginning so there's less discovery and just goal right from the get-go.
Isn't it such like a
I was gonna say the same thing. Such a great feeling when you like feel yourself level up, But
isn't it such like a trap to be like editing as you go and getting so lost in tweaking? Because that's something that I went through with my first book, and then with Mushroom Blues, I was like, just like puke it all out, man. Let's have a good time.
And not have like, now when I go from draft to draft, I have a goal of what I want to change, right? And early on in those first 2 years of writing, it was like, I just need to make it better, right? Like, I just need to have, like, I'm lacking tension here. These chapters are too long. Like, you're worrying about all these fluffy kind of surface level things, and you needed to dig deep. And, are my characters' does their motivational arc make sense, right? Are the structural pieces really working? And it was cool to feel like I'd leveled up because, I wrote book 2, worked on book 1 again, not a sequel, just a different book, and then wrote book 3, again, just a standalone different book, and then was like, wow, my draft 1 of book 2 was like my draft 4 of book 1. And my draft 1 of book 3 was like my draft 6 of book 1. So when I come back to draft 1, good Lord, and like shredded it. I mean, I probably shredded 90% of it. I kept the characters, the concept, and
there's a whole new book. Yeah.
None of the important stuff.
That's cool. I like that. I feel like there's so much advice out there for drafting, writing, and much less so for editing, but I'm coming to the same conclusions that I really need to have like intent and focus with each editing pass of like, what am I trying to accomplish in this pass? What am I trying to improve in this pass, rather than like a very broad generic, like, oh, let's make it better because that's just, you can play with things over and 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 over. And like, did it really make it better?
One of the best things that I learned about going into editing is like, depends on how messy your first draft is, but if it's readable, then just print it out and read it from start to finish, and that will point out so many of the biggest flaws in your book. And then you can exactly, there you go. And then you can go back and like, even if you do it chapter by chapter, like read your chapters to yourself, read them out loud, cringe at how terrible your sentences sound.
This looks like a lot of vomit.
But then you get a mop and you start mopping that shit up, and you can clean it pass by pass. But I think if you read your book from start to finish, if you read it out loud to yourself, because it's like, you hear an audiobook, and some audiobook narrators are not that great, but an audiobook is like a guaranteed way to tell you if a book sounds off. And if like a sentence sounds off, then it reads off as well.
I'm so jealous of Travis Baldry because he could just read it himself and it will sound amazing.
Yeah.
I think
He's
Word does do that though. Word can read out aloud.
hmm
Does it read out in like an automated voice though?
I don't know. I've not tried it, but I think so. Yeah.
It does, but like I kind of feel like that's useful too, right? Because like you're not getting like you're not like if Andrew was reading me the story, I'd be like his accent is so cool, you know. But like with the automated voice, it was just like okay, like I can, you know,
you can move past like you can't move past the sexiness of Andrew's voice. You can do that.
It's impossible.
I don't know. I think Adrian's Scottish accent was pretty good.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. There's actually a character in Mushroom Blues who has a Scottish accent, so I had some fun with that.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
I do think the draft.
No, please.
I think the draft 2 is like one of the most threatening parts of the situation because draft 1 you're not that bothered. You're just trying to get everything down. At least in my experience, and it can be really difficult. But sometimes draft 2 is looking at that mess and going, how am I going to fix this?
Yeah.
How am I going to make this even somewhat readable? And I do think taking like one aspect and doing like a once through is huge. Because I think it was Joe Abercrombie was talking about doing that, where he has one for like consistency and just making it make sense with all just the plot and the overall thing. Then he does one for character voice, and it just doing it over and over like that just makes it so much more manageable than just looking at it and going, how am I going to fix everything right now as I'm reading through it?
And instead just focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
One thing I like to do is like as I'm doing that first read through, I honestly do it on my Kindle so that I can't, even with a red pen or anything, can't touch it. And I just like to make chapter summaries. And then I look at those. Cool. I can look at them all in one Excel spreadsheet or the Google equivalent. And then I'm like, great. So this was my, midpoint is not hitting strong enough. What has to happen? And beside each chapter summary, it's so weird. I'm like inverted. Now I have to move this hand. Sorry, guys.
Hang on.
I'm not used to the like mirrored screen. Okay. Then I create like this chapter is this now and needs to become this. This chapter is this now and needs to become this. And I'll go through it like that. So you're not looking at a fat stack of pages. You're looking at it very pragmatically of what's working, what's not, and then worry about sentence flow. I mean, it depends what order you want to go in. Character development, whatever your goal is for that round, and be like, look, this character doesn't develop or they develop too quickly, or it's at 75% and it needs to be more progressive or whatever. So
I like that though, because it basically like it gives you like a very visual, even though it's Google Sheet or Excel or whatever, it's like you can see maybe like which chapters are weakest by, you have like this chapter summary, and probably the ones that have the most problems are the ones that have like the fattest paragraph. Just like a giant thing. You'd be like, okay, that's one that I like really need to work on. And that's something that I found working on Mushroom Blues is that like chapter by chapter, I knew even going through the drafting process, like this is a chapter that I'm going to have to work on more. And there were like whole chapters that I would rewrite, but use the skeleton of what I'd written in the first draft in later drafts in order to kind of like fix it up. But it's like, even in the first draft, there are moments where I know like, I just need to get this done, but I'm going to have to come back at a time when I have like more of like an editing kind of brain space in order to make this actually work. Or just those little like, I'll put those like parentheses, the like squiggly ones around like, put like a better action scene here, because whatever I tried to attempt was just complete dumpster fire.
I do that all the time in my drafting. I put brackets around shit, and my critique group that I meet with in person, they're like, all right, Nick, like how many brackets are in the like I try to like, I make it a goal lately especially to bring them like something with no brackets, try to work out all the brackets, the little notes to myself before I bring it to them, but because then they can get better feedback from me. But cool. I've got we're over an hour, so I want to be respectful of time if anyone needs to run, but I've got 2 more questions, but because I'm having fun. Are you guys good to stick around a little bit longer?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Yay. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start with you, Andrew, because Rain got the bonus question, but we'll bring it around to Rain with this question too. So distractions, how do you avoid distractions? It sounds like for you and Rain, like the key is starting in the morning, and you don't pick up the email and everything until you're done with your writing period. Is that kind of your approach, Andrew?
Yeah. Yes, sometimes.
Yes, it is. Moving. No. Yeah, no.
Yes, full stop. Next question. No. Well, a big thing for me is partly like the work is tied to my phone and things that I'm doing with social media and whatnot as well. And
Yeah.
obviously I need to talk to people that I'm working with and everything. So it's very difficult to turn it off even like
Yeah.
before I wake up properly. The first thing I'm doing is checking my phone, checking emails, checking.
Isn't that the worst? I hate that I do that
It's
too.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't do it, but it's difficult to not do. So definitely put your phone in the other room is a big thing for me. And probably one of the hardest parts, especially with writing or even video editing to a point, is getting that focused work. And the one thing that I've really enjoyed recently is I got this, which is basically a timer. Yeah, it's the Pomodoro technique, where basically you set it and you just focus on one thing for X amount of time, and then you have a short break. So I do 25 minutes of writing, 5-minute break, 25 minutes of writing, 5-minute break, and it's less to do with fitting in breaks and more to do with the fact that it's easier for me to sit down knowing that I've only got to work for 25 minutes. That's not so bad. I can do 25 minutes. Yes, nice.
I got you got your sci-fi one. I got the fantasy one. You know.
I know. Yeah. But 25 minutes is manageable, even if I've got a problem with. Even if the 25 minutes is sitting trying to figure out what to do, that's fine. It's still sitting down, focusing on it, and getting in the headspace. And quite often after that, it's very easy to get a good amount of work done. But if I'm sitting down, I'm like, right, I need to write for 3 hours or whatever, or I need to write for 2 hours. It's quite threatening to sit and think, oh, okay, right, here we go. I enjoy it once I'm in it. It's very like running, where the hardest part is putting your shoes on. So I do think that sort of 25
I
minutes.
disagree, actually.
Thanks.
but I understand the point, though. That is a good point.
So, man, that's the one thing that helps me with distractions, is just sort of having that Pomodoro technique and staying focused for, even if it's a short period of time.
I like that a lot. I think that kind of goes back to the point that you and Adrian, I think, and Rain even, we're making, all of you, everyone's making the same point of, like, you know, taking advantage of the time that you do have, and squeezing in the time that you do have. Because, yeah, with that, I'm sure you've probably dialed that timer to like 10 minutes and be like, let's race. Let's see what I can do in 10 minutes, right? And like, I feel like when I do think to gamify it that way, I can be more productive. Sometimes I kind of beat myself up about, I didn't do as much as I wish I had in those 10 minutes, which is stupid. You know, I need to go back to my clip of Adrian that I'm going to have on my wall of like, no, you know, you did more than you would have done if you did nothing, right? I think that's really smart, though. I like the idea, too, of putting the phone in the other room. And I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. Just like I even do it during the day. Like if I have nothing in the afternoon and it's just like, okay, gonna go hang out with my kids in the backyard, I'll just like leave my phone in the kitchen and then just go in the backyard. And
it's important in that, too, right? Because then you're more present, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no chance for distraction if my phone's in the other, like somewhere else where I can't see it, I can't feel it vibrate or whatever. And if a call comes, it's like, who the fuck's calling me? I don't care.
Yeah.
It's probably just a telemarketer. Yeah.
Even if it's your new Italian publisher, they can wait. They
don't have my phone number yet. Who wants to pay long distance?
True. The Rain, like any kind of I mean, especially for you, Rain, because like, you know, a lot of your creative work is on Instagram too, and I imagine that you got to be spending some time kind of scrolling and looking for ideas and inspiration, right? Like, how do you make sure that doesn't get too carried away?
Well, I haven't. I don't know what the app is called. I'll have to look and deep dive into my phone, which tech is not my strong suit. But there's like, you can put on an app timer. So it'll tell me if I've reached 90 minutes for a day and lock me out of the app. And that's how I limit my Instagram use. But then I kind of similar to Andrew, because I do pick up my phone a lot first thing in the morning, like it's automatic. So we'll put my phone in a different room with a timer going on it, so that even if I were to like mindlessly walk over to it, ignoring my 25-minute clock, and I like look at it, then it's like it's counting down still, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I'll put it back down, and I'll come back over to the computer. So similar games. Sprinto is really great for drafting, and I love doing Sprinto bot on Discord with some writing buddies during like a big drafting season.
Nice. Do you have your own Discord, Rain, or are you members of some other Discord communities?
Yeah, I started one back in November of not 2022, 2022.
Okay.
When I didn't know a lot of the writers, I reached out to Jen Woodrum. She just published her sequel actually yesterday. And I was like, do you want to start a writing group with me? You know, like, she's like, okay, let's do it. And we opened it up. And because of Nano, which I've since like kind of moved away from, but at the time, we had, I don't know, 40 people on that Discord, and then checked out and saw who wants to stick around and create like a continuing writing group. So there's about 8-ish, 10-ish of us who meet twice a week, do a little Zoom call, and then the Discord still exists. So if anyone's like in sprinter mode, then they can pop on there. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, so you did like bring it all the way back. Yeah, you did get to that advice of like creating a writing community, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I joined another one. Like I was sorry, not to like beat a dead horse, but that was my like shock and awe moment within the first like few months of being on Instagram. I had joined a writing group and started a writing group, and both took, and I'm still in them today, which is
nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got this lovely little in-person group of 4 people that we meet every week at a coffee shop, and it's fantastic. As someone that works from home too, like mostly building websites and everything, I can't tell you how valuable that time is for me to be like, oh, this is yes, and go interact with other adults. Like, do you have something like that for you, Adrian, where you like, you know,
podcasting?
It's the podcast. Okay. Yeah.
That's like, I tell that to MJ. This is like adult Adrian time.
Yeah.
And she's always surprised, like, no matter what time, even if we're recording at night, she's just like comments on how like jazzed I am. And I'm like, this is like me time. Nothing else matters.
You don't
right
understand.
now.
I don't have to like, there's no one saying dad.
Yeah. especially when you have kids, where it's like constant pestering, not in like sometimes terrible ways, but sometimes like I'm of course I'll help you. But then other times where you're just like, you spend a whole day and you've only engaged on like a like linguistic level with like a 3-year-old, you know. And you're like, my brain has just been dumbed down for hours and hours and hours, and I need something to kind of like challenge me intellectually and to kind of raise you back up to like your normal sort of cognitive level, you know. And it's like nothing against kids, it's just like, you know, they're saying stuff like, you know, like my son's been really like, he just learned the other day that bugs lay eggs, and he's just been asking me all the time about it. Or like, what, that animal has a tongue? And I'm like, yeah, dude, that animal has a tongue.
Right, which is fun. But yeah, you got to have a little bit of like, bro, somebody say like anti-disestablishmentarianism, anything, you know,
something.
I need a little bit of that adult interaction too. Cool. All right, so my big takeaway is we all need a timer of some sort, right? Like that, and then that's pretty good for the distractions. Put away the phone, get yourself a timer, do what you can on the time you have. Makes sense. All right, so I'm going to combine like 2 questions here as we kind of close out. Number 1, what would your dream scenario be like? We're all doing, you know, our writing and our look at Rain going like, hee, you know, she's got. But when you think of like your, you know, man, if like this is what I dream of. Is it you want to be just writing and like be super successful? You want to continue doing both and be competing with the people that Andrew was mentioning that are just doing the one thing, and you feel like I'm doing both and I'm like nailing it, you know? Or what is it? What does it look like for each of you? And then along with that, what do you want the audience to know about the work that you're doing now, whether it's, follow up to a debut novel for some of us that, just put it out not that long ago, or different, works in progress, or if you want to have a message to any agents that aren't listening, but if they were, yeah. What do you want to say? Let's start with Andrew. We'll go around. We'll end with Rain.
What was the question again?
Yeah, it was
Dream
long.
scenario.
Yeah. Your dream scenario.
Dream scenario, that was it. Yeah. To be honest, I love doing both YouTube and writing, so it would just be continuing both. I would love more hours in the day. That would be the dream scenario.
That would be, yes.
I like that very much, and having a better routine would also be helpful. But yeah, doing both, I just want to continue doing both because I love it, both of them. So
nice.
Happy with it.
I agree. Same. What about like
picture stuff, man?
Yeah. What do you want the audience to know about your work and things are coming out? Any really cool video ideas you have coming up, and otherwise, show us that book cover again.
Just hoping it's not going to crash the camera again, but Harbinger of Justice is.
It really is the Harbinger of Justice. Your camera just can't handle it.
It's crashing the camera,
Unjust.
I do actually have some exciting new video ideas that I'm kind of trying over the next couple months, so hopefully people will enjoy that. I don't want to reveal anything yet because it's dependent on other things, but I'm going to be working on some new types of videos, which I think will be a ton of fun.
That's pretty fun. All right, so
and you got 2 new books coming out this year, right?
I do. I have the prequel novella coming out in summer, which will be completely free on ebook, and the sequel should hopefully be out by the end of the year.
Nice.
Getting out of the house with your filming too. All right, everyone, go check out The Fool's Tale on YouTube. Go give Andrew that like and subscribe, and get ready for some new videos and check out his new work. Very cool. Adrian, what do you got coming up? Any interesting guests on SFF Addicts that you can reveal already? And what do we got next in the writing world from Adrian?
Yeah, you're just not satisfied. I just put out my book, but you're already.
Isn't it like, I mean, like, Adrian? I know. Well, listen, like, when is the audiobook coming out? How about that?
Okay, well, I'll start. So Mushroom Blues, you can get it now. It's in paperback and ebook and hardcover. And if you're in the mood for some fungal police procedural murder mystery, then this is right up your alley. I'm currently recording the audiobook. Hopefully we'll have that out more likely sometime in May. So I'll be narrating that. And then I've got a friend here in Quito who's doing all the sound engineering. He's doing a really, really awesome job with that.
Nice.
And then the next book that I'm working on is the one that I wrote previously, and I'm going to rework. And that'll hopefully be out in the fall. That one is Spore City. Same world as Mushroom Blues, but 30 years in the future and the start of a different trilogy. So that one is kind of like expanding the fungal verse interconnected universe. And then SFF Addicts, you can catch us every Tuesday to get new episodes. We do interviews and masterclasses with authors. I think we got one that just came out yesterday with Sebastian de Castel. Then he's got a masterclass coming next week on swashbuckling fantasy, which is a lot of fun to record with him. We've got our 100th episode live stream coming up on April 15th, which I can't believe we got 100 episodes. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. Well
we're doing that one with, it'll be MJ and I with Genevieve Gornichek, Greta Kelly, and Crystal Matar. And then after that, we've got some awesome guests. We've got James Logan, debut author of the Silver Blood Promise. We've got Veronica Roth at the beginning of May. We've got Stuart Turton later on in May. And then everything else is, we got stuff in the works, but nothing nailed down just yet.
Sure.
Yeah. And then for me, like dream scenario, like Andrew's, it's like
keep doing it.
Keep doing it, and eventually both my kids are going to be in school, and I'm going to be like,
and then you're going to get more hours in the day.
Then I'm going to get more hours in the day.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just waiting for that day when both my kids are in school, and I'm like, cool, I'll drop you guys off at like 8:30. And I'm good until 2:30. This is wild.
What? Yeah. So that's the secret, Andrew. First you have kids and you sacrifice all your time, but then
you need to do.
You get it back. You get it back, man. Yeah. And then your afternoons are just like a hurricane of chaos.
Yeah. Often a fun hurricane. Can I tell you, like, very brief. My 3-year-old, we just had her birthday this last weekend, and I got to arrive with pizzas and a bubble blower, and I have never felt like more of
You
a
are the
rock
king.
star. I
You are
was
the
so
king, man.
cool.
Yeah.
Every kid thought I was the best person. Anyway,
Yeah.
Rain,
The small
tell us.
boys.
Yeah. You got to embrace them. You got it.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about what you got coming up, Rain, and what does your dream scenario look like?
Coming up, I'm deep diving into the query trenches, so just send me all the good vibes. I'm working on a revise and resubmit for that project right now, and I'm very close. I have 3 more chapters, so that draft is almost done. So I'm really excited about that, which should open up my time a little bit more so I can write some more short stories and submit those.
Nice.
I've got a couple on my website in magazines that people can read. I don't know. I don't have a book out yet, so I don't know how to like pitch myself. But there's that. Dream scenario. I probably wouldn't have to work my day job, which would open up more time. And then I'd love to expand into these fields a little bit more. I mean, I'd obviously love to write more. I secretly, not so secretly, want my book to become a trilogy and my trilogy to become a show, and write and balance both screenwriting and novel writing.
Ooh, okay. Oh, nice.
It'll somehow stay in the social media sphere. That would be my dream. So
be like was it John Green a little bit, like, because he was doing novels and like one of his books is getting I think his trailer for one of his movies drops today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Kind of along those lines. I want it to be animated like Arcane.
Yes.
And I want to be like in the animation studio. I can't animate, but I want to be there.
Yeah. My dream for Mushroom Blues is like, I want it to be an anime. Like,
that'd be so cool.
I don't know, like Ghost in the Shell or like Castlevania kind of vibes in terms of like the animation style. I just think, oh man, that's so cool. I just don't think like any movie studio would be like, yeah, we're gonna have like a crazy prop department that is gonna like outfit half the cast with mushroom heads. It's like, I don't think that's gonna be a thing.
That'd be cool though. Now I'm thinking about like cosplayers doing it. There's gonna be a cosplayer out there that can pull it off and make it look amazing. That'd be cool.
I would be super happy about that.
There's already like Toad cosplays. You could get like a Toad head and stick that on. Be a good, like,
I don't think it like. I'm pretty sure Adrian's gonna fight you right now because he has no love for Toad. I think.
Oh really?
No. Toad is such a half-assed mushroom person. He's so like he's so vanilla. He's whatever.
Toad is a bitch.
He's a gateway. He's a gateway mushroom person.
Yeah.
He's how you get new people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, you remember Toad, right?
It's like that.
Awesome.
You remember Toad. Let's take that like 30 steps further to like murder mystery and like things that Mario never broaches.
Right. That's fun. Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
Right.
Let's play a Mario game on psychedelics. Then you'll be a little bit closer.
What did he do to all those turtles?
He's squishing the Goombas. That's murder.
All right. This has been super fun, guys. Thank you all for joining me. Real quick, let's run through again and tell everyone where they can find and follow you online. We kind of covered this a little bit, but let's be really explicit. Andrew, where can they find and follow you online, please?
Either Andrew Watson or The Fool's Tale should hopefully come up on YouTube or Instagram.
Perfect. Adrian, where can folks find and follow you online?
Adrian M Gibson. You can just like search me up anywhere and you'll find it. There are some places where I'm more active than others, but like mostly Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can find video of SFF Addicts, same with Spotify, and then like any podcast platform, you can find it on there as well. Nice.
And Rain, where can folks find and follow you online, please?
Over here, my Instagram, TikTok, and Threads are all right as Rain Sullivan with my last name on there and underscores in between. And then rainsullivanwrites.com is my website where you can see some of my writing.
Lovely. All right. And you can check me out, nicholaswfuller.com. You can sign up for my free Patreon newsletter, patreon.com/nicholaswfuller. You can join me on YouTube at Nicholas W. Fuller. You can find me all over. Nicholas
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Yes, please do. Help the algorithms know that you're interested and spread our fun fungal message further,
Spread the word, baby.
Right. Andrew, Adrian, and Rain, this has been a blast. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
And
Thank you so much for having us.
thank you all for out there watching. About 50 of you watching right now. I appreciate it. And if no one's told you today, you're an absolute legend.